Have you ever sat there and thought to yourself, my life would be so easy if I just made like 200 or 300 grand a year? Well, you're not the only one. A recent study by Empower found that two-thirds of Americans say their income isn't keeping up with inflation. That same study found that on average, Americans say they need a salary of around $285,000 per year just in order to feel happiness and financial security. But would all your financial troubles actually go away if your boss just doubled or tripled your salary overnight? The surprising answer is probably not. See, nearly 40% of people earning over $200,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck, and I know that sounds really crazy, right? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you why income doesn't matter nearly as much as you might think when it comes to being wealthy, and the 5 big reasons why so many high-income earners are actually totally broke. Let's start by first describing the phenomenon known as lifestyle inflation. According to Investopedia, lifestyle inflation refers to an increase in spending when an individual's income goes up. To put it simply, when people make more money, they almost always spend more money to match that increased income. One of my first serious jobs was working at this big fancy consulting firm. Everybody I worked with was in their 20s, and we all made about $90,000 to $100,000 a year. In addition to that, we all got paid an annual cash bonus around September of every year. I'll never forget my first bonus season. I remember walking into the office, seeing everybody sitting around a table eating breakfast and openly bragging about the BMWs, the Audis, and the Rolexes they'd already picked out to buy with their bonus money. I remember feeling like such an imposter because I knew I had to use my bonus money to pay back my student loans, so I just kept my mouth shut and listened. I only found out later that most of those people also had student loans, but they were prioritizing these other purchases. In the years I worked at that company, I don't remember anybody talking about saving or investing their bonuses. So I've seen lifestyle inflation firsthand. As people make more money or they get paid these kinds of bonuses, they spend it on nicer things, better clothes, a nicer car, huge vacations. But that level of spending will soon become your new normal. And if your baseline, your normal, is buying luxury cars and vacationing at Italian resorts at 20 years old, well, it's going to cost a lot to one-up that and be happy again. There was a study done that shows the more money people make per year, the more additional money they claim they need in order to feel happy. For example, for people earning under $150,000 a year, they say it would only take an additional $20,000 per year in order to feel happy and stable. But if you look at those making $200,000 a year or more, they say they can't be happy unless they make an additional $150,000 more in income.
That's a lot of money.
So just be careful of making these kinds of extravagant purchases. You can't spend your way to happiness. Next, the second reason, high-income earners on average depend way more on debt than middle-income or lower-income households. Here's a stat from one study. A Quicken survey revealed that 46% of individuals with higher incomes spend and depend more on their credit cards compared to the middle-income groups and lower-income groups. Credit card companies, they know this, and that's why they're always asking you to reconfirm your annual income. They want to know if you have more money to spend on debts if you've crossed over into this high-income group. And that applies to more than just credit card companies. Car dealerships, mortgage financiers, business lenders, they're all going to be willing to loan you way more cash simply based on your income, even if you don't have much assets or savings to back it up. And what happens to a lot of high earners when they're offered bigger loans to upsize their home or their car purchases? Well, they take the bait. Let's say you're one of the lucky few 1%ers making $280,000 a year. You want to go buy a home because, well, you're rich now, right? So you go, you find a starter home that's worth, well, let's say $1.2 million. You've even got $200,000 saved up for a down payment. You call up a lender, and within 2 days, you're pre-approved for a 30-year $1 million mortgage. You can close and move in next week if you want. I mean, you're living it up. Except, do you know how much a 30-year $1 million mortgage costs per month with current interest rates? Well, it's around $7,000 a month, and that doesn't include any extra fees like the HOA bill for your fancy gated community, any private mortgage insurance, or the property taxes are going to be going up every single year for that home. So your housing alone is costing you nearly $8,000 a month as a minimum for the next 30 years. And see, the reality is a lot of high-income earners feel like they deserve that good life, that big house, the nice car, the expensive clothing, and so they're not going to go for a modest 2-bed, 2-bath house or a Honda Civic at a dealership when they're car shopping. They're going to sign up for the biggest loans possible and completely burn up their income to pay off minimums on those debts. One economist, Paul Walker, even coined his own 777 rule to describe these people. He says, a BMW 7 Series in the garage of a home with a $700,000 mortgage and only $7,000 in the bank. He concluded, high-income earners who believe they deserve the good life and borrow to achieve it will remain poor. But it's not just a feeling of entitlement that causes people to take on way more debt than they should. That takes us to our third reason. High-income earners are directly targeted by retailers of high-end luxury products. Now, this category of high-earning broke people is so common that marketers even invented a whole term to classify them, Henry. It stands for high-earning, not rich yet. See, this group is young. On average, they're about 32 years old. They're evenly split between men and women, and they make anywhere from 200 to 500 grand a year. They're typically college educated and often hold advanced degrees, sometimes multiple degrees. I mean, it sounds pretty great. How could that not be considered rich? Well, unlike the average college graduate who has around 35 grand in student loan debt, Henrys have way higher balances. According to Business Insider, the average student loan debt for this group is $80,000. Ouch. In addition, they carry average credit card balances well over $10,000, and they love to shop online for overpriced athleisure like Lululemon or Alo. They always buy the latest iPhone or Apple Watch. They shop organic only at the grocery store. They definitely impulse travel, which explains that nonstop flood of travel posts on your social media.
Well, that is just obnoxious.
But whereas truly wealthy people have significant assets to their name like real estate or investment portfolios which generate the cash flow they need to comfortably afford their purchases, Henrys and Henriettas have little to no savings, no assets producing cash, and instead they need to spend their primary income to afford their lifestyle. As a result, they never have any income left over to accumulate the assets that the truly wealthy have. So next time you see someone on Instagram flex posting about their trip to Italy or some new Jeep they just bought, be aware, they might be way more financially stressed than you realize. Next, let's talk about high cost of living areas and how they impact your finances. It's no secret that salaries tend to be concentrated in certain industries like tech, finance, and entertainment. If you want to earn a huge salary working in one of these industries, between return to office mandates and a really competitive job market, you're really likely going to have to move to where the jobs are. For tech, that might mean a move to San Francisco and the Bay Area. For entertainment, you have Los Angeles and Hollywood. And for finance, of course, there's New York City. And sure, living in a big city, earning a huge paycheck might sound really cool, but trust me, the reality is city life is overpriced and totally overrated. Let's take New York City, for example. While the average rent in the US is about $2,000 a month, in New York, the average is about $3,800 per month. And that's for a 600 square foot apartment that may or may not have elevator access, not exactly luxury living. In addition, the average monthly grocery bill is 50% higher in New York City than in the rest of the country. Basic utilities are 30% higher for the same service you'd get anywhere. To top it all off, New York has the highest tax burden in the US, California not being that far behind, by the way. So even if you've worked real hard and taken on a ton of student debt just to qualify for one of these elite salary jobs at a big company, if that job is tied to your location, that dollar salary amount isn't actually what it seems. It's super inflated to reflect the local economy and the amount of taxes are going to be swiping right out of your paycheck, the amount of rent you're going to be paying to live there. In a lot of cases, wealth-wise, you're actually way better off earning half that big salary but living in a much cheaper state with lower living expenses, lower rent, and lower taxes. One recent study found that residents who spend over 30% of their paycheck on rent are shown to experience higher rates of anxiety and depression. So just be really careful with committing yourself to a job that might pay a really big salary but requires you to live somewhere that'll compromise your potential savings and your mental health.
It's not worth it.
Which takes me to our last reason, and that's social pressures. Once your lifestyle is inflated to a certain point, there's almost no going back to living cheaply, even if that's your only way out of your situation. I mean, picture it. If you were a doctor, a lawyer, or a big shot finance guy, and you're used to having a multi-million-dollar home and a backup Porsche for your daily driver Range Rover, it's going to take a real catastrophe to get you to hit the reset button and go back to driving a beater while you rent and pay down all your debt. I mean, changing your lifestyle at that point takes a level of sacrifice and humility because your friends and family are likely to notice if you sell off all your cars and buy a used Corolla. Even if that's an incredibly smart financial move, at this level of income, your social reputation will take a hit if you downsize your life. I mean, could you imagine your Henry friends or coworkers finding out you're actually a broke doctor or lawyer? So most high-earning people feel trapped. They might have made one or two bad financial decisions like buying too big of a house or taking on way too much student loan debt. Instead of selling off their home or their suit collection or moving into an affordable apartment until they can stabilize their finances, they spend their prime earning years blowing their fantastic incomes on equally huge bills, most of it just going to interest on servicing crazy debt. I mean, you would be shocked how many doctors and financial executives are living a life completely funded by debt, with little to no savings, no retirement, and where every dollar they spend is going to monthly payments and minimums. So ultimately, can having a high income help with getting wealthy? Yeah, for sure, if you're one of the rare few people who have the discipline to keep a low-cost lifestyle and invest the extra money you're making. But at any income level, the most important factor is how much of your take-home income you actually get to keep. How much of it are you saving and investing? So my message is not to discourage you, but to empower you that regardless of how much salary you're making, becoming wealthy is fully within your control. You just need the right habits. Stop spending your money on stupid crap. Live within your means, pay off your debt, and focus on building your net worth by acquiring assets and investing. That's the only way you're going to be able to live the life that you deserve. With that, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below, do you have any friends who live that Henry or Henrietta lifestyle? And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Peace.